Hey, welcome to Season 2 of Level 3 Focus. My name is UltraDavid. We're now in the year 2013, and James and I are coming back from a bit of a break, as you probably know. We took some time off to kind of hang out, and we've done some work on trying to improve the situation too. I think there's higher Ps now, right?
Yes.
We're dealing with more Ps than before?
Yes.
Excellent. I hope you're enjoying all those Ps as you're watching. So, in this new year, James is going to be doing some new stuff. But I think Level 3 Focus is going to be pretty much the same deal. What it was last year was match analysis. I would take videos and analyze them and try to suck all the interesting marrow out of them. Sometimes I would go over concepts that I thought were interesting or that people maybe didn't understand fully or needed some help with. Sometimes James and I would break down new games, all sorts of stuff like that. And that's pretty much what I want to still be doing in this year. So I thought about going over like the best matches of 2012, yada yada. That's probably a pretty cool show, but that's not what I'm going to be doing. Instead, I'm going to start off with match analysis again. That's what I'm most interested in doing. And even though I do this show to help people out and as interest to people, just kind of what I like doing anyway. When I watch videos, or when I watch people play, or when I play, I always kind of think about it in the same way. I like stopping the tape. I like, even in my head, kind of stopping the tape and going back to individual moments and finding out or thinking about what could have happened differently, why things happened as they did, and see what the strategy is behind the decision making. That's what interests me most about fighting games and about strategy games in general. So today, as you can probably see by the title, which is Chris G is better, I talk about why I think Chris G is better. And I don't just mean that in the context of Chris G versus everybody else in 2013. I do mean it in that context. But he's also better than he used to be. And I'll talk a little bit about how I think those differences have come about, what they are, what the differences are, and then maybe what to try, what to expect against Chris G for 2013, if in fact there is anything that you can really do against Moradum. So, interesting year last year for Ultimate Marvel 3. It came out just a little bit before then, and then most of the year was people trying to figure out the game. So it started out, the way that I view Marvel 3 and Ultimate Marvel 3 is like reverse Super Turbo. In the end, they're both kind of crazy games, lots of stupid stuff, but interesting and strategic. I say reverse because in Super Turbo, I think that the game started out more strategic. Over the years, really dumb stuff was found. Crazy option selects, crazy glitches, really crazy little exploits. And the thing about how they were found was that they were gradual. This happened over a 15-year period of time. And so at no one individual point were you overwhelmed with the craziness. You could kind of incorporate it into the strategy, figured it out. I mean, maybe at first it seemed really dumb and game-breaking, but each time it was one or two new things, and everybody incorporated what was going on or figured out how to deal with it in a slow enough way that it never felt overwhelming. But for Marvel 3, when that game came out, I mean, it took maybe a month or two for it to get crazy. If you recall, I mean, just a few months in, everybody was so worried about Phoenix, with good reason, in vanilla. When Ultimate Marvel came out, everybody was so worried about Wesker as Anchor, as X-Factor Anchor. And again, with good reason. So, in Marvel 3, the BS was like right up there. It was staring you in the face when you played those games, Marvel and then Ultimate Marvel now. You couldn't escape it because it was right there. That's what the game seemed to be. But, it's a fun enough game, and people were invested. And that's what a frame trap is. Sorry about that. I don't know what the deal is. Hopefully that won't happen again. I don't really know where that left off, but I was just kind of rambling. So probably nothing. Oh, wait. No, dude, there's an ad at the start. Right? Oh, no? Not for yours? Okay, fine. Well, I'll just talk then, but mine has an ad. So, I was just talking about how this game has become a smart game. And the way that it's become a smart game, in addition to being a crazy game, is that people have worked to try to minimize the randomness. And there are a bunch of ways to do that. You can have very strong defense like with Morgan Doom, whatever other character with it. You can have very strong offense. Thinking of maybe like a Marlin Pie, Viper Doom Amy. You can have just like crazy control of the situation, like with zero teams. Once they get a hit, it's really just 2 mix-up away from being killed. I mean, you can also have unblockable style teams like Zach's team with Firebrand and Dorm and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what the game is becoming, and how it's becoming an intelligent game, and how through that there's a lot of interesting strategy. Chris G has been on the forefront of that, obviously, with Morgan Doom. Morgan Doom, various characters, right? He's settled on Virgil now, but for a while he's tried a bunch of other things. And that shell was a problem already in the springtime, before Evo. But then when Evo came around, Filipino Champ won it. It wasn't Chris G, and they played at Evo in losers finals, and Filipino Champ won. He moved on. It was a very close set, but he won. Since then, that has just not been the case. Chris G won Season's Beatings. He beat Filipino Champ 15-10 in their money match at Season's Beatings. He won NEC. He had this crazy win streak at the Big Two weeklies, and then he just won Apex 2013. Apex not necessarily a major, more of a regional kind of thing, but it did have most of the best players from New York and Philadelphia, and some Midwest players, and Maryland, Virginia players, and Filipino Champ came out too from Northern California. So still a very strong amount of competition, level of competition at that tournament. He's won all of those. People have tried all sorts of counters. Hawkeye, I remember Flocker tried, that didn't work out. MODOK and Captain America, Fruitsy tried that, negative. Viper, Amy, Marlin Pie, hasn't worked out. Dante, a lot of people tried, that hasn't worked out. Nova, a couple people tried, hasn't really worked out. I mean, people are kind of racking their brains now. And, some have identified Phoenix Wright as being a potential counter, but that hasn't actually happened in practice yet. A big one was Dormammu. Everybody thinks that Dormammu beats just Morgan. And that's what Filipino Champ went with both at Evo in his match against Chris G, and then again at Apex yesterday. And, it worked at Evo. It didn't work in their money match, and it didn't work at Apex yesterday. So the question is, what is so different about Chris G versus Filipino Champ at Evo and Chris G versus Filipino Champ then at Apex? What are the differences? Why is it that Chris G is so dominant now? It wasn't just against Filipino Champ that he won. Keep in mind, he went 3-0 in winners finals versus J Rosa, and then before that 3-1 against Marlin Pie, and before that 3-whatever against Fublat / PS3's Laggingness. If you haven't seen that video, check that out. It's hilarious and really sad. So I'm wondering, what are the differences between these two sets? And I think that's going to be an interesting question. So I know we've already had a de facto break, but I'm going to take another break right here. And after that, when we come back, I'm going to bring up Evo 2012 losers finals between Filipino Champ and Chris G, so that you can get a foundation for what the match was like. And then after that, we'll go over to their match from yesterday and see how things are different, how Chris has changed and how Filipino Champ has changed, and how, as a result, Chris G won Apex. Hey, welcome back. I just posted a video in the chat of Fublat versus Chris G that people were wondering about, the slowdown video on PS3. It looks like they're just playing in molasses. It's like really weird. In fact, it kind of looks like they slowed down the video like later on, which like maybe it would be, except they're talking at the same time and like nothing sounds weird about the voice. So it's pretty crazy that the slowdown happened as badly. I also put the video that I'm going to look at right now, which is from Evo 2012 when Filipino Champ played against Chris G in the losers finals. I had a link to that in the chat too. So in case you want to check it out without me slowing it down, or in case you want to see it before this spoiler, then check it out there. And if you're watching on YouTube, then I'll have it, I guess, under the video. So check that out. Anyway, let's go over to the vid. Yeah. So this is from losers finals. Big moment. Filipino Champ had just lost, and it's against Infrit. Dormammu, Magneto, and Dr. Doom is Filipino Champ's team. Chris G is Morgan, Doom, Hawkeye. So Dormammu, like I said, a lot of people consider to be a counter to Morgan, especially back in this time. The reason is that he can fill the screen with a ton of stuff. He can make spells that make it hard for her to throw soul fists. He can use the pillar to get rid of things. He can teleport around. He's got some mobility on him. And he's just a really useful character. I mean, he can chaotic play him through stuff. He's got a lot of good stuff going for him. So that's why Chris G goes with Hawkeye, because Hawkeye is considered a counter to Dormammu. Magneto, a counter to Hawkeye. So this is actually a really interesting set of counter picks. But most importantly, pay attention to what's going on with Dormammu Doom and on the Filipino Champ side, and on Chris G's side with Morgan and Doom. And you can see what's going on already. Filipino Champ is playing the keep away game against Chris G's keep away team. And that's proving to be a problem right now for Chris. He's trying to get in. He tried to get in as his Doom. Didn't work out, as you can see. Dormammu just had too good of zoning for him with the spell. And now it's just down to Morgan by herself. Morgan by herself is definitely much worse than Morgan with an assist. She has some holes in the patterns of Soul Fist that she can put out. She has some attack angle problems. She can't really reach the top of the screen that well. That's why she goes with Doom oftentimes, to make her the best, because that kind of covers her stuff. So now, X Factor is his chance for the comeback. Fine. What are you going to do about that? Not that big a deal. Really, the bigger deal to keep in mind is what happened at the start of this, when Filipino Champ was keeping away as Dormammu against Chris G as Morgan. In fact, Chris G didn't like the matchup so much that he switched out to a character. He has a character in Hawkeye there that's specifically meant to deal with Dormammu. That's what he thinks about this match. And Filipino Champ, at this point, seeming pretty comfortable. Not really that much that Morgan can do. She can't even take chip, really, at this point. He does an awesome job at evading. Like, he finds that exact hole a few times in between where the photons go. And he's going to go up here and find another hole right there. But Doom comes down and takes it. Did you know that Jump M chips?
Does it?
Yeah. I didn't know that either until I was rewatching this video and Magus says that on the air. And Yipes was like, what? Like, even Yipes didn't know, so I didn't feel bad. So this time, Chris G, seeing how the Morgan went at the start, really didn't like it. He's going to go with Hawkeye. Hawkeye is good against Dormammu because he can put a ton of stuff on the screen, like, horizontally, in a way that's frustrating for Dormammu. He can also gimlet through things on reaction. He can stay away. So Filipino Champ doesn't want that. That's why there's this whole interesting set of counterpicks going on within this set. But that's not going to be much of a thing there for Chris G anymore. So now he's down to the more Doom shell that he's going to retain when we see the video later on. Coming right in there with Doom. Again, he's trying to play offense against this team. It's just not really working out that well for him. Filipino Champ is doing a better job at keeping away than Chris G is with the team that he built to play lame with. So now Morgan in, and Filipino Champ has Doom in. That's obviously not what he wants. He wants to have Dormammu in right now, but he's got to play patiently for a little while. He knows that Astral Vision's going to go away eventually, and he won't have all those fireballs in his face anymore, and at that point he's going to have a few more options. There he tries to clear out both the assist and Morgan herself. Has a little bit better of an option right now, more mobile character in Magneto, so he can get around stuff. And he doesn't look too worried about the fact that Chris G is now playing a keep away game. He's much farther ahead on life than Chris is, and he can afford to play this game for quite a while. Tried to get it, but Doom missiles preventing that. So Chris G actually had some offense right there, and he gave it up on purpose. He goes away, and now we're at this Dormammu Morgan. Again, Chris G played a little bit of offense there, and it worked out for him. Unfortunately for him, he dropped the combo. That's what ended up happening there. That's why the hard tag happened. But the idea of playing a little bit of offense seemed like it worked out a little bit better there for him than before. X Factor, because she would have gotten punished with the beam right there, and also just to cause a bunch of havoc for Doom. So Doom gets out. Couldn't punish because of missiles. They interrupted that super. And now it's just straight up Dormammu versus Moradum. And you kind of see how Filipino Champ wants to play this. He wants to play a keep-away game because he knows that he has a character that's capable of kind of keeping out Morgan. You see the mobility I'm talking about with the teleports. He has pillars right there. He hasn't really had a chance to make a spell quite yet. But clearly difficult for Morgan to approach. And he's not even really that worried. See, he goes up to the top of the screen where he knows she can't really attack all that well. She can get a couple of them up there, but it's not really like what she's good at. Unfortunately for Filipino Champ, he kind of panics there and brings out Chaotic Flame, which he gets hit in the back for his troubles for. So now we're at 1-1. Magneto starting against Hawkeye. Again, that counter pick thing going on. The person who wins is obligated to stay with the same team order, so Filipino Champ knows that he can go with Magneto first and get this matchup for himself. Seems like it's actually not working out super well. But since Doom is on the screen... Oh, that's right, he went with Ball here. I forget why he did that. Rather than Chaotic Flame. Oh, because he would have gotten punished by Hawkeye. Duh. Anyway, so now you get to see Dormammu a little bit, and why Hawkeye is not that great a matchup for him. Gimlet can be a problem. Yep. And again, X Factor to make it deal a little bit more damage. Try to keep it up, but not quite. And it's just a lot of stuff on the screen for him to deal with. Comes out fast. Doesn't really get a chance. And X Factors to stay safe. Probably would have gotten punished even without Gimlet there. He tries to make that character safe. I mean, think about what's going on here. Like why Chris G has picked Hawkeye in this match. It's because he feels not confident in the Dormammu match, especially Dormammu with missiles behind him. He doesn't really think that Morgan Doom can hold up against that. And it's kind of seemed that way, even though in the last game he ended up winning. In part, but that was because Filipino Champ probably just didn't think that there was an Astral Vision Fireball behind him to hit him out of the Chaotic Flame. So, I mean, so far it looks like a smart pick to have gone with Hawkeye back there. And at the time, he wasn't super committed to somebody like Virgil. So it seemed okay. Now that Magneto is in, it's definitely a problem for him. I mean, he has some mobility, he can get around stuff a little bit, but it's not really a long-term strategy for him. So instead, Filipino Champ goes to Dormammu. Again, this is the match that he wants, and as soon as Dormammu comes in, watch how Chris plays. He is not really playing that much offense. He continues to have major problems with Dormammu getting away from him, and continues to think that matchup is really bad. And so he brings in Hawkeye. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for him. Yeah, that's right. They were pretty clearly nervous in this situation. They both had some errors. They both missed some combos. Filipino Champ there, and before that, in the last game, was some problems from Chris G too. It is EVO Losers Finals. This is a big moment. And now, Filipino Champ has a crappy matchup on his hands. It was Dormammu by himself against Hawkeye with backup, and that doesn't work. So Chris G goes up 2-1, in part because he has picked for himself Hawkeye to deal with the crappy-sounding matchup of Morgan Doom even, versus Champ's Dormammu. You know what? They take a little bit of a while here, so can you speed up if possible? I don't think it's that long. Well, that's probably fine.
Okay.
So Magneto doing some good work right now against Hawkeye. Doom has had some problems in the back as the assist, getting sniped. And this wheel of matchups continues to turn. So now Magneto has to deal with Morgan and Doom behind her. Very matchup-heavy game. She gets right through that. Definitely more invincible in that situation. Shockwave has good invincibility startup, but it kind of runs out just as it starts hitting. Now Hawkeye against Storm, this is exactly what Chris G wants. It's not looking good for Filipino Champ right here. He does get the grab, wants to keep it simple, especially because the missiles were in his face. And he's going to try to just chip that character out. And this is amazing for him, that Chris G would let Morgan come in at basically full life instead of trying to depend on Hawkeye. I mean, that really tells you how much he thinks that Morgan is not that great a match against Dormammu. He's okay with basically just offering her up to make sure that Hawkeye lives. He's really not confident in that Morgan Doom matchup. Hawkeye in now. And no meter for Hawkeye, so couldn't really punish that. At risk of getting chipped out. Awesome prediction right there with that pillar. That was definitely a risk. If that had whiffed, that would have been, or could have been, pretty bad for him. And now this is definitely not a good matchup. Dormammu with Doom behind him against Doom by himself. Not really that much that Doom can do. Perfect keep away by Filipino Champ. So now they take a little bit more time here, so if you could fast forward just a bit. Not that much. Yeah, right? Like, look at Filipino Champ. Man. You know how important it is to him. I think it's a little farther than that, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little ways. Magus. Yipes. Here it is. Okay.
Wait a minute.
So it's 2-2 now. Filipino Champ versus Chris G. And Filipino Champ, having won the last one, is down on the counter pick wheel and to Chris G, which means that Morgan gets the start against Magneto. Keep in mind that this was like the most godlike possible combo at the time. Isn't it? Like, it's not that long ago,
Yeah.
but like, man, things have really changed in just that small period of time. 6 months. So Magneto is in against Morgan still. Not great for him. He's trying to stay on top and run out Astral Vision until he can do a few more things. But it's just not working. I mean, Doom missiles are up there. He's about to get chipped out. Just gets hit by H, and that's it. So immediately Chris G puts in Hawkeye. Tags in Hawkeye just like that. Again, does not want to deal with Dormammu as Morgan. Unfortunately for him, he whiffs something. But fortunately for him, guesses right on the TAC. And Filipino Champ takes definitely a risk right there in putting that out, unless that was awesome reactions, because again, Gimlet could have punished him on that, on the block. Gimlet, X-Factor Gimlet maybe. So now without Hawkeye, Chris G can't be feeling too good. He's got a bad matchup for himself right here. Doom against Dormammu with missiles. Just, again, playing this amazing keep-away game. That life just getting chipped out horribly. And Chris G knows that Morgan Doom is a little bit better for him probably than Doom Morgan. So switches that character back in, but still, I mean, look at this. It's not going well. DP Super trying to get through. He is panicking right now. He doesn't know what to do. Ball Super, and so on reaction, he X-Factors because he definitely would have gotten chipped out. She hasn't been able to start up anything. I mean, look at this. Has she thrown a fireball in the last 10 seconds? She's really just trying to figure out something to do. It's not her usual game plan for sure. He gets a grab, DP Super for the OTG. There's not much damage there, but at least I guess he runs out some X-Factor time. Still, though, you can see, I mean, okay, he's figuring some stuff out, right? Play offense a little bit better. In fact, he gets a happy birthday on this. And now, just like that, things have seemingly totally changed. Dormammu is gone. Chris G, you can see the trouble he had in the matchup. It's not an issue anymore. Now a matchup that is much better for him and horrible for Filipino Champ is just Doom versus Morgan Doom. Filipino Champ going for chip options. Getting close, so Chris is worried about it. And this is where things start to get a little bit crazy. He hard tags in. Horrible mistake, as you could see. I remember this, and everybody going nuts at the time at why he would do that rather than let Morgan die and bring in Doom as an even matchup, even honest matchup, no X Factor. And at this point, Filipino Champ basically, he's far enough away that DP Super isn't an issue, and he takes it. So that's how Evo went for Filipino Champ versus Chris G. Very, very counter pick heavy, as you could see. It was all about which point character was out at the time, and there were these really interesting wheel of options, as you go around the counter pick thing, that they both wanted to constantly be keeping on top of. That was very important. You could see that Morgan Doom for Chris G, he didn't really consider that to be a good thing for him. He tried to get Hawkeye in there instead against Dormammu. And it was, I mean, the sloppiness is whatever. It's losers finals of Evo. This is, what can you say about that? I don't think that's very important to point out. I think the much more important thing to point out is the characters that they used and how they were using them. You could see the fear in Chris G's play as he had Morgan in. Needed to get her out, and in situations where he couldn't get her out, he had extended periods of time, even when it was Morgan Doom, where he just didn't throw a single fireball because he was worried about it. And so Chris G, in part on the strength of that crazy ending, right, had a good spot for himself, and it just didn't work out. So in part on the strength of that, but also in part because of how the matchups went, he loses. And Filipino Champ, of course, went on to win Evolution 2012. Chris G went in the lab, as everybody knows. And, very, very smart guy. I feel like the smartest things that he does in Marvel 3 are before the game starts. In fact, that's how I feel about a lot of smart stuff in Marvel 3, is that it's about game planning beforehand. And he's great at that. He went in the lab, he picked up Virgil, great addition to that team. As we'll see in the match after this, it really helps out what his team can do. But that's not all he did. I mean, he found a lot of other good stuff to do with Morgan and with Doom. Filipino Champ, keep this in mind. He doesn't have anybody on the West Coast who plays Morgan Doom in anything like the same way that Chris G does. A couple guys now are trying to pick it up, but it wasn't like that from all of EVO to about now. And so when he plays against Chris G, it's his scopes against Chris are entirely based on what happened in the past and what he's seen Chris do in videos. It's kind of a different deal. So let's take another break, and when we come back, we're going to look at the match that just happened yesterday at Apex 2013 between these two guys and see how they're different and in what ways Chris looks like he is better. Hey, welcome back to UltraChenTV, specifically Level 3 Focus. We're talking about Chris G versus Filipino Champ. We talked about their match at EVO 2012 and what went down, and how Filipino Champ ended up taking it, and how it was very matchup heavy, and how Chris G wanted Hawkeye on his team to deal with Dormammu because he didn't think that Morgan could. And then we talked a little bit about how things have changed. Chris G has won Seasons Beatings. He beat Filipino Champ 15-10 in their money match at Seasons Beatings. He won NEC. Then he won Apex 2012 yesterday against Filipino Champ in the Grand Finals. Filipino Champ had to actually beat Jay Rosa, who is another Morgan Doom, although he described himself to me as a Doom Morgan player. But he plays that shell. And Filipino Champ did fine. I mean, he won. And he got through. And so after seeing that, we don't have time to break down that match, although it would be really interesting here. But Filipino Champ looked like he was doing okay against Morgan Doom. And you got it all ready to go? Okay, bring it up, but let's not quite press play on it yet. Just talk about what the obvious differences are. So team composition is obviously a difference, right? Now it's Morgan Virgil Doom rather than Morgan Doom Hawkeye. And it's also now Filipino Champ dropping Magneto in favor of Phoenix. So he has Dormammu, Doom, Phoenix, and Doom Beam rather than missiles. And the reason for those two choices, I talked to them about it. Beam, he wanted to try to snipe Doom with missiles. That is to say, Chris G's Doom assist with the beam as missiles were being called. And the reason for Phoenix is that it was just kind of a failsafe for him. He wasn't so sure about how it would go, and so he wanted that failsafe. He wanted to force Chris G to play differently against him, and of course, as he expected that you do have to against Phoenix. So that's the change. That's the reason for that. As far as the reason for Chris G going with Virgil, I mean, we'll pick out some moments where it's clear, but. Obviously Virgil is a great character, one of the best characters in the game, definitely better than Hawkeye, and has an assist that's useful for the team. He has the ability to go from Morgan, DP, OTG, Dragon Punch Super over to swords now, which is kind of crazy. Get kills on that, and he's a great character. I mean, has comeback ability, all sorts of good stuff. That's what the obvious changes are. The more interesting changes, I think, are in how they play the matchup, and how Filipino Champ and Chris G, what their level of comfort is with the various matchups. So let's get into this thing. Alrighty, so right off the bat, we got Chris G on the right. Well, actually, can you start back up? Let's get it back from the start here.
Sure.
Cool. Alrighty. Watch Chris G at the very start. Forward, 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 jump forward. He has not thrown a fireball yet. He has offense happening. Remember those couple of times when it seemed like he was doing okay as Morgan against Dormammu? It was when he played the offense, and although he didn't hit the combos back then that he could have used to kill Dormammu off, it might have been clear to him in reviewing the tape that he should have been playing offense. And so that's exactly what he does against Dormammu here. Dormammu has not had a single chance so far to do anything at all. He was chased around constantly. He just couldn't do anything. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he had molecular shield at the start. The reason for that was because it can kind of clear out the bottom of the screen a little bit. It doesn't have the greatest durability, but it moves slowly and it can kind of clear out some space. It also hits behind him too, so it's good against Astral Vision because it can, again, not the greatest projectile durability, but it can help out if you're trying to stand there, at the bottom of the screen. But that said, it wasn't even an issue. Never even got a chance to do anything with it because Dormammu got rushed down by Morgan immediately. Now notice how Chris G has switched things up. Through that whole series when it was Doom, he played keep away the whole time. And the result is that Chris G takes the first game in just dominant fashion. Dormammu didn't get to do anything because he was being rushed down. Doom didn't get to do anything because he was being kept away. And as a result, Phoenix came in pretty far away from the 5 bars that she needs to become Dark Phoenix on her death. Oh yeah, I was there. 24 hours ago. And now I'm back. If you notice that I have a sniffle, yeah, I got sick there. That'll happen. Oh, tournaments. I tried to wash my hands, dude, Try to wash my hands often, but sometimes it doesn't help. So again, notice what Chris G does at the start. Walks forward, goes for the grab immediately. He is so sick that he called Doom missiles as he went for the grab, knowing that if he got the grab, then they would OTG for him. Okay, like these are the things that he's doing nowadays. That's a crazy setup. There's the Virgil, which helps him out as he sets up Astral Vision. It can place the opponent into a wake up meaty situation with that Virgil assist if they roll backwards. So it's helpful for him for that. Still, Dormammu has not gotten to do anything in the slightest. He's just been rushed down. Look at that. Dormammu wakes up with S because it's a good anti-air, but Chris G is so good at his attack angles right now that he was on top of the S. Immediately switching it up, going to more keep away, Morgan Doom, staying away. And although Doom H beam in the air can clear out some projectiles, it's not really going to do him that much good. He's just being chipped to death, and he'll get hit every once and again. And I'm not really sure what he can do about that as Doom without any backup. So again, rush down on Dorm, keep away on Doom, just like that. Phoenix is in pretty far away from 5 bars, and she is almost dead. It's going to take something crazy. Luckily for Filipino Champ, he ends up with 5 bars. Now, at least at the start of the set, that means that he is doing great. Everybody tends to think, 5 bars as Phoenix. Well, that pretty much means Dark Phoenix is coming in. And Filipino Champ is so smart, he doesn't want to take any risk that he's going to get hit with anything that could lead to Soul Steal. So he just blocks and takes the chip damage on purpose so that he can turn into Dark Phoenix on his own terms. Morgan with X Factor, so no chip. But still, this is not easy for her. She's more about controlling that character preemptively, not really once about it comes out. Virgil, very important for Filipino Champ to kill Virgil without letting him come in and set things up. Because, with swords, with crown, he can do a lot of good work against that character. So it works. That Phoenix comeback works. Like I said, it's a way for Filipino Champ. It's a failsafe if things go wrong. It's also a way for him to force. He thinks it's a way for him to force Morgan Doom to play differently against him. Finally, he gets a chance to get away for just a little bit, but immediately you see Chris G getting in there. He throws a fireball. What does he do with the fireball? He doesn't just stay away. He uses it as his approach, as his cover on the way into Dorm. This is very much an offensive matchup for him right now. Jumping in, trying to get back in. Look at this. Good job by Dorm to finally try to set something up. First chance he's had to do that in 3 games. But Chris G chases him around nonetheless, and it's working out more for Chris than it is for Filipino Champ. So Dormammu, the hope of EVO 2012, a major reason why Filipino Champ beat Chris G, goes down in 3 straight rounds. He put up a little bit more fight there, but not that much. And there's been no character switch from Chris G because he's just figured out how to fight that fight. It's not a keep away fight for him anymore. It's a rushdown fight. He's figured out the matchup. And Filipino champ, like I said, hasn't been able to practice against Morgan Doom. It's only when he plays against Chris G or now Jay Rosa that he gets to play against it. So it's, this is a style of play that he might not have been expecting. Doom, just is basically a meat shield right now. He's basically trading the bar on top for the bar on bottom. As that character dies, he gains a little bit more meter. And now Phoenix comes in and barely lives, does get hit, does get lit up, but barely lives. And as a result, he's going to be able to make a crazy comeback. Already, Morgan is on the ropes, X Factor, but that's not going to last that long. It doesn't even matter anyway. Gets a hit. Virgil has got to die immediately. And he does. Never got to the ground to start up swords. Doom gets away, but this is a horrible matchup for him. Once she's away like that, Chip definitely becomes an issue. He's got to watch out for the traps. Filipino champ doing a great job of not being underneath. Not really being at what his potential attack angles are. And that's that. So Chris G looks upset because he's definitely been doing the right thing. He knows clearly how to play against Dormammu now. He has this figured out in terms of the first two characters. But, Phoenix is Phoenix. Things can go nuts at the end. He is in winner's bracket, so if he loses this next one, it sucks to have a reset, but not that horrible. Somebody comes over to offer him some support. Yeah, I think they're going to get back into it. I don't think there's too much of a break here. There it is. So back into it. And again, Morgan trying to start things out offensively. Filipino champ now I think is starting to figure out what's going on. He's definitely a smart player. Does great at adaptation. So he's trying to find the moments when he can get away from Morgan. Fly up there, hoping that his attempt to get spells up earlier would convince Morgan to go for him there. So he went for that tri-dash, didn't work. And, Chris G is, despite Filipino champ's obvious, he knows what's going on. He just hasn't been able to keep Morgan off of him. Those projectiles, amazing. And now Chris G, pretty good with combos and keeping things up. So I don't know why Filipino champ went a little crazy there against Doom. That is a huge loss for him now. And because, that's that Virgil assist right there, right? That's him using the block stun from the Virgil assist to set up Astral Vision. It's not like it's some invincible super. It's definitely punishable. It's definitely punishable. So he uses the Virgil to set it up like that. So smart. And again, we have Phoenix coming in. This is the fourth straight game where Phoenix comes in, 3 out of 4 games where Phoenix comes in without the 5 bars needed to turn dark. And that, when you see that over and over again, it means that the player who's playing against her is doing things right. Gets the grab, X Factor there to make sure that she would die before getting that meter. And Dormammu just hasn't been able to do anything. Remember when they played at EVO? How many spells there were? There were meteors constantly. There were pillars constantly. He was doing all sorts of stuff. I mean, he had a few more options, right? He had Chaotic Flame as an option. He had Stalking Flare as an option. He had those supers because he didn't have Phoenix. But that's not even really the issue here. The issue is that he's just getting rushed down and hasn't been able to do anything. Finally, meteors. It's like the 5th game. Is that the first time we've seen meteors? And this is the last game of this set. So Doom trying to stay on top. He knows he's pretty far away from getting to the 5. Now, when watching this, you might think, wait, why isn't Chris G going for Snap? He had a combo that started when Filipino champ had 3 bars. He definitely could have gone for the Snap there and tried to kill that character in Phoenix well before 5 bars. But seems not to care. And you think, well, maybe that's just him being confident, not too worried, because he thinks that he'll just be good enough to deal with it. He'll block or whatever it is. That's what we're thinking at the time. Filipino champ goes back to Dormammu because it's a little bit better still than Doom. It just hasn't seemed like it. Just this crazy barrage of everything in his face. You see I guess I haven't been talking about this enough, but the patterns that Chris G uses are now quite different than the patterns he used before. He has a lot more crisscross of the projectiles are much harder to read where they're going. They have way better coverage too. His timings with the assist are great. There's the combo that goes into Soul Steal. That was the first time we saw it right there. I didn't even know that went into Soul Steal. Again, right there. And that's that. That's why Chris G didn't care whether he snapped Phoenix or not. Because he knew he had this option. He knew that he had combo into Soul Drain. I don't know why I haven't seen anybody else do that. But there you go. I think it's like toward M and it cancels into Soul Drain. That's what he told me. So that's why he was okay with doing that. He has figured out that team. He has figured out how to play against Dorm, against Doom, and against Phoenix. He has an option for all of this stuff. And you know, at the end of that game, you saw him go in on Doom, and at first you wonder yourself, why are you going in on Doom? It's been a great strategy for you to keep away. Well, the reason is that he needed to get up close to get a combo into Soul Drain. I mean, in talking to him and Jay Russell later, they have hit confirms with the projectiles themselves that will combo into Soul Drain too from 2/3 screen. So they are really figuring out how to play, how to minimize the risk to themselves on as many things as they possibly can. You can't minimize everything. Phoenix was there, and that's why Filipino Champ had those 2 games. If not for Phoenix, that would have been a sweep, a fast 3-0 on Chris G's part. But other than that, he has totally figured out how to cover Dormammu. He's totally figured out how to cover Doom. And as you can see, he even has figured out how to deal with Phoenix as well as you can. We didn't get to see it from Virgil, but obviously there are anti-Phoenix things from Virgil too. He just got killed on the way in both times that she was dark, so that never came up. So, but the point is that he has even an additional safeguard against Phoenix in Virgil. And although it's not all the time, he lost that character these 2 times. It's doing what you can do to minimize the craziness, to minimize the BS. That is the strategy of this game. And the interesting question is, what happens now to beat this team? To beat this, it's the Shell, it's the Morgan Doom, but now it's the Virgil too. And although he didn't really use Virgil in this set, that threat is there. It's a big threat. Great character, has missiles backing him up. If on anchor, is super dangerous. Has great matchups against a lot of the cast. So he's playing Marvel in a way that I don't think anybody else is playing Marvel right now. He has figured out matchups in a way that other people haven't had a chance to even, or I should say have had a chance to in most parts. Some cases not, they haven't had a chance to. I did mention that Filipino Champ hasn't really had good Mora Doom practice on the West Coast. I heard that a couple of the guys in Northern California are playing that shell now, and we'll see how that goes and whether it'll help Filipino Champ figure out what to do. But as it was in that set, it looked like Dormammu didn't have any good options, despite the fact that at EVO, it was Dormammu that Chris G was so worried about that he picked Hawkeye onto that team and switched away from Morgan at every chance to get to Hawkeye. So I think Chris G is better than he was at EVO. I think he's better than everybody else right now. He beat Filipino Champ with Morgan Doom when Jay Rosa lost to it, although Jay Rosa is getting much better. You can see that he's good in a way that nobody else is really up to right now. So in 2013, like in 2012, I think that the progression is going to be towards figuring out how to minimize craziness, how to maximize the planning of what goes on in this game, especially beforehand, especially at the character select screen, but not even just then. I mean, you can see in game that the uses that the strategies that Chris G has are now different, and he's figured all this stuff out. That's what I think the progression will be towards. I think it'll be more like ST in the end, which is a crazy game, but a very smart game. It's just that whereas ST started off smart and got crazy and then ended up with this crazy synthesis of smart and crazy, I think that Marvel 3 is the opposite, where it started out totally nuts and becomes a very smart game that is still pretty crazy, but the point of the game is to minimize that crazy. And I think Chris G is doing that better than anybody else. So I think that is it for my Level 3 focus for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, for the Tuesday show, whatever we're calling it tomorrow, I guess we'll figure that out. We'll also figure out what the topic's going to be and tweet it out. You can follow us on Twitter at UltraChenTV. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/UltraChenTV, or as James mentioned before, you can email us to ask us any kind of question you want at UltraChenTV@gmail.com. So, that about it? All right, we'll see you tomorrow.